Hi, welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for watching. Well, our all-star panel returns. They're sitting right here, and we're going to debate, of all things, the Pennsylvania budget and other matters, and then our popular financial literacy update. Guess what? It all starts right now.
This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers, a fast-paced, unrehearsed weekly discussion with and about the leaders who shape your world. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Hi, welcome back to the program. Our all-star, that's hard to say, all-star panel is back, and these guys have more titles than the King of England or the Queen of England, but here they are. Sitting right next to me is Fred Anton. He heads the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Across from me is Jim Barr. He's a VP. A couple of big titles for him at the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, and Jim Redmond. He has a bunch of titles, too, with a hospital. You guys have too many titles, Fred. What do you think?
Yes, absolutely.
Good, okay. All right, we're going to start quickly. I want to yes or no on this, and then we're going to details. Does the Pennsylvania Legislature and the governor come to an agreement on the budget by the end of June? June 30, do they get it done?
Yes.
On time? Do they get it done?
Absolutely.
Do they get it done?
No question. They'll get it done.
All right, there you have it. Now, I'll give you their email if we don't get it straight. All right, Fred.
But the question is, how far before June 30th will they get it done? Will it be at the last minute? Will the voters care as long as it gets done by the 30th? Yes, voters will care.
So?
If the state employees are laid off like they were with Rendell, they'll care a lot.
Oh, you mean if they announce the layoffs and there's all that? Do you think that will come to that?
I don't think we'll get that far. I think it'll be at most the third week in June.
Third week in June?
I agree with Gene.
All right, so Fred's just raising the possibility, I think. All right, Fred, let's start with you. $27.3 billion. The Republicans in the Senate say, uh-oh, we're going to hike it. We're going to go a couple $100 million more. We can go further, reduce these cuts in education that the governor wants. Is that going to happen?
This budget is only about one thing: expenditures and what the level of expenditures are going to be. I'm amazed how resolute and absent from the debate the question of taxes or increase in taxes.
There are no taxes.
There are no taxes.
Maybe one. We'll get into that.
A legislature who we had speak to a group that we have on Monday morning said he has had 2 emails about taxes and about 100 about what they're cutting.
All right, Gene Barr, look, will the Senate raise the threshold above 27.3, use this $500 million in surplus they're talking about, money that they expect to get in terms of the receipts? Are they going to? Will the Senate do it, and will they reduce further the cuts in the budget?
I don't think you're going to see all the $500 to $600 million. Part of it is when you talk to people who are engaged in detail on the budget, they're not at all sure this is recurring revenue, and they're concerned about what might happen next year. So there's going to be
economy worsens. You mean
the economy worsens again? Yeah. Is this a one-time deal? There's some real issues in terms of the details in terms of how this tax money came in from the corporate side. I don't know that they're going to do the whole 500. I think tweaking up a little bit, perhaps.
200 of the 500?
I don't know what number they're going to get. It might not even be 200. I think there's real pressure to keep it at the 27.33.
What do you think?
I think they'll use some of it, but Gene is right. There is concern about the fact that some of this is not recurring revenue. But I want to disagree with Fred on something. I don't think the issue is the spend number. I think the issue is no new taxes. And there are a number of things that they can do to move some dollars out of the general fund that were put in there by the governor that can change that number. But I think the real issue is
now look,
no new taxes.
The medical healthcare is on the block here because the trade-off was restore some of the education cuts and go in to the welfare budget. Some 400, we get into the 400, 450 million. Will that hold up? Will the legislature stick to those cuts?
I think they'll stick to some of them. I think I'm encouraged from the standpoint that we seem to have support in the Senate for changing some of the hospital cuts that are being proposed.
All right. One of the big, we're going to have to run to a break, but Fred, one of the big issues is tort reform. Generally called lawsuit abuse reform. It's been, passed twice, I think, before, not going anywhere. What's the prospect that lawsuit abuse reform will be passed this time and the governor will sign it?
I think the prospect is 50-50. There's substantial opposition to moving the bill in the Pennsylvania State Senate. Many of the people who will vote for it would just as soon have it go away. And
are we talking mostly about Republicans from the suburbs?
We're talking about Republicans, exclusively Republicans. All the Democrats will vote against this, but we're talking about 5 or 6 Republicans from the suburbs and from the Northeast.
Okay, good point.
Yes.
All right, what we're talking about here is, Jim, explain lawsuit abuse in 30 seconds.
Well, the issue is joint and several liability, which is really the deep pocket rule here in Pennsylvania. We're one of only a handful of states that has not dealt with this issue. And House Bill 1 is pending before the state Senate. This is the bill that passed twice before, and we're hopeful that the Senate's going to deal with this.
So if you're at fault 5%, you're going to pay 5%. Even if you have deep pockets, you're not going to pay 75%. Is that the theory? You guys got that?
The change, but I would say it's a little better than 50-50. I think we got a good shot this time.
Okay.
Doctors, hospitals, business, local government all want it.
Okay, when we come back, how many times have you heard Marcellus Shale mentioned? Well, Gene Barr is going to explain that to us when we return. Good job.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania Cyber Charter School, bringing educational innovation and freedom to the children of Pennsylvania. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by ReconnectPA.org, supporting a comprehensive transportation funding solution, and by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Hi, welcome back to the program with our all-star panel. All right, Gene, Marcellus Shale, I used to think it was a planet in another solar system. Boy, do we now know it is not, right?
It's
no
not.
severance tax at the wellhead, severance tax, no, but impact fee, explain that to
What
everybody.
Marcellus Shale is, in my view, the biggest economic opportunity and challenge Pennsylvania's had in decades. The governor formed a commission to look at this Marcellus Shale, the natural gas development.
Right?
I'm on the commission. Pennsylvania, as a result of this, has the second largest natural gas field in the world. For those people who talk about energy security, we now have that real opportunity presented to us. This issue of a severance tax, and people say, oh, gee, the industry's getting a free ride. They're not, because they're paying the corporate taxes and other business taxes they're required to. The issue is, should we ask for more? The governor has said, I want to let the industry develop. Right. The reality is it's worked in many places. We have 2 counties at or near full employment. They're Marcellus Shale counties.
But we are going to get, look, but you will admit that there's 2 concerns. One would be the impact on the local community.
That's exactly right.
And the potential of environmental damage. So we need resources to handle both of them.
Right, but I think you have to separate those 2 issues. There's the issue of environmental has to be separated from the revenue and the other impact issue, and we're going to be debating those on the commission. I think you're going to be debating it into the fall.
All right, now, as you know, the governor has said no, he's on the commission. If the commission, and then Senator Scarnati, who you know, has a bill that would do the impact fee that they may actually vote on before the commission gets its report.
The governor, as I've seen it, has not said no. What the governor has said is, I will look at what the commission proposes, and even though I'm against taxes, I may be able to bend for an impact fee that benefits the local communities. That's what I hear him saying.
All right. Okay, look, let's talk about this in another way.
Sure.
And I'll start with you, and I know that you know, will this come up for a vote? Will the Scarnati impact fee bill be voted on in June, or will they wait for the commission, if you had a guess?
I don't think they'll vote on it in June.
No vote in June.
I don't think, because there's a whole lot of other things that have to be. It isn't just, you know, how much money, it's where the money, how it gets divided, how it gets apportioned. There's a lot of issues that
But the Scarnati bill spells that out in some detail.
But they have to coalesce around that.
It's too complicated.
It's fairly complicated at this point. Senator Scarnati's bill is a very interesting way to start.
No.
So there's a consensus. No, if your commission recommends I think Fred's point is well made. The governor then has an out. He can say,
correct,
the commission recommended, and polls show that it's popular.
And he has said he's willing to look at an impact fee.
Everybody agrees with that. So if you're
now reports due July 22nd.
You want to give us an advance? Are you going to recommend
We're talking about it. I mean, look, I'm only one of 30 or so commission members. It's on that list of things to be debated by the commission.
All right, I want to get to school choice in the next segment. Before I do, Jim Redmond, abortion clinic regulation, bill that would provide for tighter regulation of abortion. It has to do with that Philadelphia. That idiot down there that was performing these abortions. Is that a huge issue in this state? Are you hearing much about this?
Oh yes, the House passed a bill recently that's quite extensive, and there's also another bill in the Senate by Senator Pat Vance. And both of those bills, I think, are going to be considered, and one of them will emerge. And
okay, we're going to a break.
You
think one will pass?
Yes.
All right, school choice. When we come up, we're going to start with Fred Anton, round robin, real quick. School choice following these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. Pennsylvania Credit Unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, check out ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the State System of Higher Education. 14 state-owned universities. The state system is the largest provider of higher education in Pennsylvania. And by the Hospital and Health System Association of Pennsylvania, working towards a healthy Pennsylvania.
Fred, it looked earlier in the year that school choice might be, not so easily accomplished, but done. Then you've got this business where some senators want school choice, vouchers for private schools. Then you've got over on the House where they're improving tax credits for scholarships for the schools. Are they going to get on the same page?
Let me say 3 or 4 things. There's no leadership from the governor on school choice.
Okay.
The House, the Republican majority in the House has no appetite for any school choice bill. They have concluded the issue of educational reform with the increase in the EITC from 60 to 100,000 this year and to 200,000 next year. They will not vote.
So school choice is not going to pass?
School choice is not going to move in the House.
But the tax credit, educational tax credits will?
It will if the Senate passes it, but the present school choice bill in the Senate is not broad enough for...
Okay. We're down to a minute. For pass, go ahead.
It may not get done before they go home in June. This education system in Pennsylvania needs a healthy dose of competition, and more needs to be done.
Any final word on hospitals? Anything we need to know?
Well, the key for us will be the budget and dealing with liability reform.
Okay, there you have it. All right, our all-star panel. We went through a zillion issues. Guess what? Our popular financial literacy update. Stay tuned. We'll tell you how to protect your money. We'll be back in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by Highmark Blue Shield, changing the way health plans work for business with a variety of plan options for employers and more choices for employees. Information is available at highmark.com. Have a greater hand in your company's health. And by the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, the future of long-term care.
Hi, welcome back. Well, our popular financial literacy update. Mike Wishnow is sitting across from me. He's a senior VP with the Credit Union Association, and Corinne Sherman, she's a vice president at this aforementioned Credit Union Association. All right, look, I'm going to start with you, Michael. Credit cards, debit cards, use up or down in the last couple of years?
Oh, clearly up and up and up.
Recession,
and up.
It's still up?
It's still up. Debit cards particularly. but more and more people are turning to plastics, and you know, in many ways it's a good thing, but there's also some concerns that consumers need to have.
But now wait a minute. Explain this to me. I'm not so sharp when it comes to this, but debit, credit. If debit, you have the money, you're not borrowing. That can't be a bad thing, can it?
No, no.
Go
Debit
ahead.
cards bring convenience to the consumer,
Right.
allows transactions to be completed much faster, and is actually less expensive for the merchants to handle the transaction.
So, now let's think about this a minute. So, it was my understanding as we went into this recession, Michael, that people were spending less, saving more, and using less credit. You're saying they're still using it, but they're being more cautious about it? They're not running as up total debt? That's coming down? Explain that to me.
Yeah, I think on the credit side, and Corinne probably knows a bit more about this than I do, on the credit side, the transaction volume is the same. People are just paying down their debt. Okay. They're paying more, or they're paying their amounts in full when they can.
Are you seeing that with your
Yes.
local credit unions?
Yes.
Banks, I'm sure, would be the same. Go ahead.
Yeah, people are paying down their credit card debt more. Usage is remaining the same. A lot of rewards programs on credit still exist, so a lot of people do use their cards for rewards and then pay them off every month.
Yeah. Now, you have to be real careful so that you understand all the terms of those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have a couple rewards cards, and they're actually okay. The ones I use, you know, because I shop at a place, I won't mention it, no free advertising here, actually isn't bad. You know, if you're going to use the product, is that the whole point? You got to use the product, or else you're just spending money to get a reward, and you know.
Oh, right. If you don't use a reward, it's not a reward.
Right.
Yeah, good point. All right, let's talk about credit card fraud. Is it, Corinne, is it up or down, or people being more cautious about it? What can you tell us about this?
Plastic card fraud in general is up.
Plastic card fraud is up.
Yes, both credit and debit card fraud. As usage increases, so does the fraud. A lot of new technologies exist which allow for new ways for criminals to perpetrate the fraud against consumers.
Michael, are credit unions and banks doing a better job in the last few years of informing consumers about what to look for and how to prevent it? Hold on. If I have a credit card with you, let's say, and something happens to it, I'm protected. Does that mean I don't have to care about it?
No, it doesn't mean you don't have to care about it. You are protected as long as you report it within a timely manner. You're going to have a zero liability. But you're still going to have the headache of cleaning up all the problems that ensue. At the end of the day, you're going to be made whole. But that is really exacerbated on a debit card, because that's money coming right out of your checking account.
Yep.
And that could cause other things to bounce, and you could have a whole slew of problems. I think many of your viewers saw in the news the Michaels data breach, and there have been data breaches, you know, for the last several years, TJ Maxx, DJS Shoes, etc. I think that what consumers need to be careful with is making sure that they protect their data and their credit card information as best they can. But the credit unions, the lenders, are winding up stuck, correct?
Yeah, but let's pursue these steps. One of the things that we've tried to do over the years is to talk about, you know, consumer protection as part of this financial literacy aspect. And let's talk a bit, tell our viewers out there what they need to do to be sure that they're not victims.
Oh, there's a number of things consumers can do. Starting with signing the back of their card is important. Checking the monthly statements are extremely important, because even if you have your card in your wallet, some of the schemes that are out there, some of the account compromises, as Mike talked about, consumers must watch their accounts very carefully. Be careful with any internet scams. One of the things that's happening a lot is a scheme called phishing. It's important for consumers to understand that their financial institution would never send them an email and ask them for their credit card account number, their PIN number.
Or Social Security number.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How about the last 4 digits? A lot of times when you're doing something, they say, well, give us the... Could they do anything with the last 4 digits if they don't have the
Not the last 4 digits of the account number. It's those 3 digits on the back that appear in the signature panel of the card.
Now listen to this. I'm going to have her repeat this. What should we watch for?
The 3 digits that appear in the signature panel of the card. Those are the key 3 digits that you might have noticed that now when you try to complete a transaction, they ask you for those. That's an additional layer of security that's been added.
I must tell you, when my wife does most of the buying online. I'm afraid to put my credit card number down. Maybe I don't know how, but seriously, I'm afraid. And every time they ask for it, I back away, even from things that I know. I mean, that's probably stupid because there are legitimate. Go ahead, finish.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, first of all, if you know the merchant, that should give you a level of comfort. Yeah. If there's a security
number or code or something?
No, there's a little logo.
A logo.
There you go. A lock on the bottom.
Okay.
Exactly.
So you look for a lock,
site.
right?
Yeah. The other thing is I am not uncomfortable putting my own credit card in. I don't like to put my debit card in. And again, for the same reasons, if there was some fraud, debit cards can cause a lot more problems with checking accounts. Do you agree with that, Corinne?
I agree. Either debit or credit, the consumer ultimately has zero liability through Visa, MasterCard. They offer that to you. But from a debit perspective, when the fraud's committed, as Mike said, they do get it right from your checking account, which can cause overdraft situations and other declined transactions.
All right, let's talk about, if you've got, what do you do how do you protect yourself if you're a victim? I mean, what are the steps? Let's think about that a bit.
Well,
go ahead.
If you're a victim, I think the first thing you need to do is contact the credit reporting agencies, all big 3 of the credit reporting agencies, and check your credit report. Make sure that there aren't other things going on. It's important to put an alert on your credit report so that others know that you are a victim of identity theft or counterfeiting. You should always contact the police. Always file a report because chances are you wouldn't be the only one.
I noticed that you're encouraging people to go to the big 3 credit agencies, I guess, reporting agencies, and then you're saying, well, maybe just don't use one, but do more. We got about 30 seconds. What should people do with that?
Well, yeah, certainly all 3 are combined when they look at your credit, so you should put alerts on in a compromised situation.
On all 3.
As Corinne said. Yeah, absolutely.
But when you're checking your own credit score, when you just want to know what your own credit score is, should you look at 1, 2, or 3?
3.
You think we should look at all 3?
Yeah, and you can go to annualcreditreport.com, get them all for free once a year.
There you go. All right, thanks. All right, as always, thanks for watching Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and stay well.